All right, in this video, we're going to have our first conversation about three-dimensional geometry. And I've already had some students say that they were excited when they got the paper about this unit. I'm excited also because this unit really lends out to a lot of what's out there in front of us. A lot of the shapes that are solids are around us, and we're going to be able to do some really good real-world problems with that later on in the unit. But let's start talking about some prisms, cross-sections, and nets. You're going to notice that this video is pretty short because in class what I want to do is I want to extend with some additional videos or some GeoGebra exercises dealing with the cross sections because they're really good to see with GeoGebra. So back to our paper or our notes, it says that a prism is a three-dimensional figure with exactly two congruent parallel faces called bases. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start highlighting some key information there. First, that a prism is 3D, solid. We know that from our past. That has two congruent parallel. We've discussed that quite a bit. All right, faces that are called bases. All right, that's important. All right, because that's how we're going to name our prism. And that's in our second line. How we're going to name the prism is according to our base. All right, the other faces of the prism is called lateral faces. And that's important because those lateral faces are rectangles. So I'm highlighting here the lateral face, that's a rectangle. And then we see for our pentagonal prism that the base is a pentagon. And that base is parallel to the other one. All right, the other pentagon. Sorry about that. There's a highlighter. All right, so in our triangular prism, again, all right, the base is a triangle. That's how we're naming it. We're naming it according to the bases, and the lateral face is a rectangle. All right, so let's go down to example number one. Let's start naming some of these prisms. I know you've done this in the past, so I'm going to go through fairly quickly. If you have questions, please, in class, ask. It says, name each of the prisms pictured. All right, and it's highlighting what the base is. So this base here is a square, so I'm going to call it a square prism. Okay, yes, you can also call it a rectangular prism. Okay, that is okay. All right, and the second one, well, if I count the sides, all right, if I count the sides of that base, all right, it's a pentagon, so we're going to call that a pentagonal prism. And then the last one, okay, if I count the sides of that base, okay, that's a hexagon. So I'm going to call that, what it is, a hexagonal prism. All right. Cross-sections of three-dimensional solids. Cross-section is the intersection of a solid and a plane. All right, you can think of a cross-section as a very thin slice of the solid. Now, what matters here is how you slice it. Okay, so in the first one, for example, number 2, that's a vertical cross-section there. All right, a vertical cross-section of that rectangular prism or that square prism. Okay, so the question is, what is the shape? Okay, what's going to be the shape of that cross-section, that slice? Okay, so first of all, I'm going to write down that it's a vertical cross-section. And the shape that the shape of that cross section, okay, is going to be a square. We're going to do a lot more of those in class tomorrow where it's really cool to be able to see it with GeoGebra or through the video. All right, the next one is going to be a horizontal cross section. So I'm going to write that down. All right, horizontal cross section. And when I cross that, or when I slice that solid there horizontally, well, that's going to be a triangle. Again, we will see that crystal clear tomorrow. Okay, now the last section, nets. Okay, I'm pretty sure you've done this in your past. The nets of a solid, that's when I like to think of it as you're opening up, you're taking that 3D figure, you're opening up and you're making it flat. It's kind of like a box. If you've ever put a box together, all right, it starts off flat and you make it a solid. All right, so this is kind of doing the opposite of that. So a net is a pattern or shape that you can cut or fold to make a model of a solid shape. And it says which net will create the figure shown. Okay, so the figure shown there, well, if I look at this, all right, I look at my base, it has 5 sides, so that's a pentagonal prism. All right, a pentagonal prism. Okay, now, so I have to look and see, all right, which one of these figures, all right, is going to give me that pentagon, the pentagonal prism, all right, once it is open up. So I'm looking at A, and I don't see that there. I'm looking at B, I also don't see that there, okay? And I look at C, and there it is, okay? All right, and I did that on purpose because I have my 2 bases there, and then I have how many, and I want you to think about that, well, I kind of counted it for you, but how many rectangles do I have there that are going to make up that those lateral faces? Well, of course there are 5. 5 rectangular, all right, faces that are there and for that pentagonal prism, which is, again, the bases. All right, now, what I want you to do is write down your key ideas. Obviously, I want you to work through your check your understanding. We'll go over that in class. And remember, go Cats, go Knights.